when you choose to gentle parent your anxiety, you're acknowledging it. Just that alone will diffuse the situation. Think about when you're parenting a child. When we ignore them or we escalate, because like energy matches like energy. So when our kids get escalated, it's very easy to get sucked into that vortex and to also escalate. But when we can remain regulated in our nervous system and we can hold space for their big feelings, it is more likely that they will begin to calm down. Hey, I'm Brooke Jean, therapist, recovering perfectionist, and struggling working mom on a mission to normalize normal. If you're an overwhelmed, high-achieving, and secretly anxious mama, struggling to balance it all and on the brink of burnout, you are in the right place. Here is where we talk about hard things like balancing work and family life, mental health, and how to navigate life-altering transitions. Nothing is too taboo here. In my conversations, I'll teach you how to let go of who you think you're supposed to be in order to create the life you've always wanted. Get ready to embrace your messy, shed the shoulds, and find freedom through a life unperfected. This is the Unperfected Pod. Welcome back to the Unperfected Pod, where we normalize normal and find freedom through a life unperfected. What is up, mama? My name is Brooke Jean and I am your host. And before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to share a little life update that I am actually really proud of, because there was a lot of the work that I guide moms through behind the scenes to get to this point. So today, as I'm recording this, it is October 16th. Here in Denver, Colorado, we are kicking off fall break for our youngest, Chloe. She's in first grade. And I am very pleased to let you all know that my partner has taken the week off work to spend the quality time with our girl. And this is huge because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I make my own schedule. And so, all of these years leading up to this, it just kind of felt like it made more sense for me to take the time off. But last year, we had a conversation about this upcoming year and how we would maybe do things a little bit differently and how he could take time off work and get paid and help me out with all of these days and weeks that the kiddos don't have school. And especially as we're going into what we call fourth quarter, which is the holiday season, right? They're going to be off Thanksgiving, they're going to be off Christmas, and I'm going to be taking a lot of that time off. I just said it would really be helpful if I could work this week so I'm not, adding all of that up. P.S. I don't get paid if I don't work, and you do. And of course, he was more than open to that, more than willing to do that. And it turns out we just need to communicate. Dun, dun, dun. This is something I'm proud of, because what my old pattern would be is to not communicate what I needed, not to ask for help, just kind of grit and bear it. You know what I'm talking about. And then feel frustration or overwhelm or resentment. And that stuff starts to build up and isn't helpful in any of our relationships. And so it just felt really good this morning when I could wake up and do my morning ritual and start a full day of work. And my husband is home and he's with my daughter and they get to spend quality time, and he's busy buying tickets to the zoo and figuring out the pumpkin patch and going to take her to the dentist tomorrow. And all of that is so flipping helpful. And now I know I am sitting here from a place of privilege that A, I have a partner, B, I have one that is open and willing to communicate and willing to take on any and all of the stuff when it comes to raising our kid. I know that not everyone is in that same predicament. However, if we don't ask, if we don't communicate, we assume no one is going to help us. And while that may be a brutal reality for so many of us, it might also be an assumption. It might also be a projection even. And so I share this story with you because A, I feel proud. I feel grateful that I have a partner like this. I can see the work that I've done in order to get to a place where we can communicate about these things. Still have a long ways to grow in that regard, but I think it's important to pause and notice the progress on the journey that we're all on in trying to become the best version of ourselves, or a more conscious and healed version of ourselves. And I hope that it inspires you to take a look at, the time that you're always the default parent. You're always the one taking the children to school, or picking them up, or taking them to extracurriculars, or taking them to the birthday parties, and, taking off work for their time off of school, and all of the things that we're juggling. Where can you communicate to your partner? Where can you divide and conquer? Okay, this is what it means to split the mental and physical load. And so, may I inspire you to have that conversation. And you might just be surprised that your partner is more than willing. They just need us to communicate it. Because let's be honest, they're not reading between the lines. They're not picking up the cues. They're not aware of all of those balls that we tend to juggle as women, as mothers. And so they need that communication from us. And they also need us to be able to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling like I could use some help, because they're not making that assumption until we're like showing up energetically in that resentment, and they can feel it, but they're just like left in the dark and clueless. And they're like, okay, I can feel Brooke's a little upset here, but she's not telling me what's going on. We're never going to get our needs met when we handle it that way. So that's going on. We have fall break. My husband took off of work. That's feeling like a major win. I am loving that. This Friday, I took off of work. We are going to get out of town and celebrate our anniversary. So our anniversary was actually the 4th of October, but we are going to drop our littlest one off at Grandma and Grandpa's, and then head up to the mountains to Crested Butte to have a romantic getaway. And surprisingly, even though I've been in Colorado since I was like 12 or 13 years old, I've never been to Crested Butte. And I have heard so many amazing things about it. And it's just always fun to get out and explore different parts of Colorado. So I am highly, highly, highly looking forward to that. And I wasn't going to share this, but another and more disturbing life update was this morning as I was putting my makeup on after the shower, I noticed that now I not only have one coarse black chin hair that loves to pop out, I now have a second hair like that. That's actually on the top of my upper lip. And I don't know who I can call and complain to about this, but what in the actual F? What is this? So now not only am I dealing with that one hair that's just like popping off, like she just has some force behind her. She is always growing. She is thick. She is just like out living her best life. Now there's a second one I get to worry about. Now there's a second one. And of course, they're not going to grow at the same pace. Well, it's like you can't just handle them both at the same time. And it's like, who has time to manage all these new developments that we don't love on our skin? Okay. Ever since I turned 40, I feel like there's a new development every day, whether it's a new chin hair, a new wrinkle, a new sunspot. Like, what is actually happening? Things are actually breaking down. And I don't even really care about like the physical, like the visual aesthetic of it. Like, it's okay. Aging is a beautiful thing. Wrinkles are fine. But I don't have the energy or the time to be managing these pieces. Okay. I can barely get through my most important things on my to-do list. And now I have to worry about plucking a second hair on my lip. So shout out to you mamas if you've already discovered your first one. And why didn't you tell the rest of us that it's not a one and done situation? There's potentially a second. And are you going to let me know if there's a third or a fourth? Like, when does it end? When does it end? Do we just wake up one day and we're like a grizzly bear with 14 different coarse black hairs popping off? Like, this is really something I'm going to want to get in front of from a confidence level, because in a time management level, because it's all just becoming too much. So, on this podcast, we like to normalize normal. I guess getting these chin hairs or upper lip hairs later in life is a normal thing that we need to talk about. Why do we need to talk about it? Because it's ridiculous. And we feel less alone, and we can remove the shame around it when we can all say, oh yeah, I have that hair. I have that hair. I have that hair. Anyways, shout out if you have those hairs. If you haven't already, please come join us over in my private Facebook group. It's called Mommy's Mental Health Matters. Just request to join. I have been extending the conversations that I'm having on the podcast in what I'm calling a live weekly coaching only for that group. So each week I'm showing up and I am just spending a half an hour teaching these principles, diving deep, answering any questions that come through, and just wanting to pour into you and give you more and more support around your wellness, your well-being, your mental health, leadership, energetics, epigenetics, neuroscience, all the things that you guys know that I love to geek out over. So I'm trying to create a community, a safe place where we can normalize the wide range of normal, where we can feel less alone, where we can talk about our struggles, but also receive information that helps us navigate this beautiful and messy world. So join us over there, Mommy's Mental Health Matters on Facebook, to receive a deeper dive and just more time with moi, if that is something that your soul is craving. Okay, so let's get into our topic today, which is how to gentle parent your anxiety. How to gentle parent your anxiety. Okay, so I've decided to turn anxiety into a series because I have so much to teach and say and to support you on when it comes to anxiety. I myself navigate anxiety and have since I was younger. And I'm telling you, 99.9% of my clients also deal with anxiety. And as a collective, ever since the pandemic and with how much scary stuff and sad stuff and devastating stuff is going on in the world right now, we are all feeling the impact. We are all feeling a little more anxious, a little more scared. Our brains want to keep us safe. They're giving us worst case scenario. The news is giving us these really sad and scary images and stories, which is triggering our nervous system. So if you are finding yourself heightened in your anxiety right now, mama, you are not alone. We are all heightened. We are scared. We are concerned about the state of the world. We are feeling devastated about what's happening to our sisters and our children in the world. We are still recovering from COVID and everything that we went through that, on top of managing our own individual and intergenerational traumas. And so episode 5, episode 17, and episode 34 have all covered a component of anxiety. And so now every fourth episode is going to be a new release to the anxiety series. And so today I want to talk about how to gentle parent your anxiety. And here is my favorite part about this discussion. That gentle parenting my anxiety is not my idea. It came from a client. Let me explain. So, number one, I learn just as much from my clients as my clients learn from me. So when you engage in a therapeutic alliance, a therapeutic relationship, or a relationship with a coach even, there is a co-creation that is happening. There is a co-regulation that is happening. There is a co-healing that is happening. And what I mean by that is that it's an equal exchange of energy. We are both getting better by being in this relationship with one another. And by growing through things together in this setting, and a therapeutic alliance or a coaching relationship or a mentoring relationship, we get to experience it, experience the shift, embody the shift, and then carry that newfound awareness and consciousness out into our relationships elsewhere. So therapy is not just coming and talking about problems. It's experiencing trust and an equal and respectful exchange of energy and discovering who the hell you can become when you engage in such a precious relationship. Who you become when you can put your walls down, put your guard down, and come and be vulnerable and be loved and respected and seen, fully seen for who you are. But not only do you get to become the most youest you and transformed by this, so do I as your guide. And I will never be able to explain how precious this is to me, how spiritual this feels for me, what a privilege it is for me to walk alongside these women, whether it's individually or in groups or on teams, and witness their transformations while also be totally affected mind, body, and spirit. So I grow right there with you. And, I have some clients that have been with me for a really long time, and they can see how our growth has paralleled each other, right? We grow together. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I'm a more evolved version of myself. My clients are not the same person they were. They are a more evolved version. And it's in that co creation that we heal together and we create new potential realities for both of us. How beautiful is this? So, this is just like one small example. So, I was explaining to this client is experiencing anxiety like the rest of us, right? And I was explaining some principles from ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, where we are talking about befriending your anxiety, giving your anxiety a name, understanding that anxiety is just a part or just a part of us might be experiencing anxiety. Okay. Last week's podcast episode, I talk about the inner child, internal family systems. So go back and listen to that one because the inner child might be feeling anxious, but you are not your anxiety. You are not an anxious person. You are a whole human being, and there is a part of you that is experiencing this anxiety. And rather than shame it, rather than repress it, rather than ignore it or get frustrated with it, my recommendation is to see it with kindness and compassion. Because that part, that version of you that has felt anxious, has done a lot of work to keep you safe. She works hard to predict future outcomes. She works hard to keep everyone in her family safe. She is always aware. And do you know how much energy it takes to always be thinking ahead, to always be aware, to be hyper vigilant of your surroundings? Like, I know you know what I mean. You can literally feel the investment energetically that is required to host this anxiety with one of these parts. But when we shame it, when we get frustrated with it, we engage in this internal struggle. I've shared this with you guys before. I will repeat things over and over again with the intention that it integrates, because a lot of this is just like psychobabble. Okay. So I don't expect that you hear this stuff one time and you just understand it or integrate it or whatever. Like, hello, there's so much information coming at us every single day. We are really only absorbing a small piece of it. So I repeat myself on purpose to help things stick. And also, I believe energetically that things will stick when you need them. The rest will bounce off because, honey, you don't need it right now. So if I'm ever teaching something and it doesn't feel relevant, it doesn't feel important to you, whatever, let it ricochet, honey. That is fine with me. What you need will stick when you need it the most. And I fully believe that. So anyways, I was explaining to this parent the concept, right? Of like, let's look at how much work your anxiety has done for you. Let's look at the purpose it served. Why would we be so mean to that part of us? Why would we be mean to any part of us? How would that affect us that we're being mean? Like, our brain is always recording this internal dialogue. It's paying attention. If you're shaming that part, your brain is paying attention to that. That can become a reality for you. And so instead, I want you showing up with curiosity and to be kind and compassionate to this part. And my client, this brilliant soul, says, "Oh, so you're asking me to gentle parent my anxiety." And girl, that was a mic drop moment that like cut me to my heart in all the right ways. I was like, I don't know if I've ever heard anything more true in my entire life. Yes. Yes, my love, you get it. That's exactly it, right? And so you may have heard of the concept of gentle parenting. Maybe it's brand new to you. Okay. First of all, I don't subscribe to any one style of parenting. I subscribe to empowering women to trust their mama intuition and to heal so they can be the most conscious parent they can be. I don't believe there is one size that fits all to anything in this life. I certainly am not going to subscribe to that in parenting. And I am also not at all interested in shaming a single mother in the world for the way that she parents or does not parent. So if you are gentle parenting, I think you're amazing. If you've never gentle parented a day in your life, you are also amazing. Okay. So like we are all just on this journey trying to figure out how to best love on and raise our human beings. However, I wanted to pull up like an actual like Google search of gentle parenting so I could share it with you so I didn't get it wrong. So the idea behind gentle parenting is to approach kids with respect and empathy, to offer choices rather than make demands, to give space to the child's feelings and emotions, and avoid losing your cool in frustrating situations. Oof. I was really on board until the avoid losing your cool happened. And then I was like, yeah, if I'm going to be real and I'm going to embrace my messy, here's the thing. I'm always trying to gentle parent, but when I've asked you 5 times and I'm low key triggered because your voice is really loud and there's 47 other noises going on and I'm still stressed out about that thing about work, I, at that point, lose my cool and I just start screaming. Okay. Now, that is something I am working on openly. Like my daughter knows mommy is working on that and I do repair. So if I lose my cool, I do come back and I repair. So it's all about the rupture and then the repair. But let me just tell you this. My intentions are pure, honey, and I am trying my best to gentle parent, but I am not going to sit up here and act like that's a reality for me. I lose my cool at least once a day. So if you do too, I see you, I understand. We have got to take better care of ourselves first, and then it will be easier to gentle parent our children. Anyways, that is the concept of gentle parenting. And so as it relates to anxiety, you can see how beautiful this is. And the things that stood out to me about that were giving space to. Again, okay, I feel this anxiety in my body. I can feel it in my mind racing. I can feel the tension in my shoulders. I have some anxiety here. Let me get curious about that and give space to that instead of repressing it or shoving it aside or being so sick of my own stuff, right? Giving space to that anxiety like you would give space to your child's emotions. Beautiful. Yes, that's the work here. The other thing that stood out was respect and empathy. Mama, may you have a little respect and a little empathy for this part of you that has fought so hard to keep your Fanny alive. May you have a little respect and empathy for that part of you that works so hard to keep everyone that you love safe. Like, seriously, there are no bad feelings or wrong experiences. Anxiety is just a part of being a human being. It's part of our lived experience. It's part of the human condition. You see, our brains have evolved to keep us safe. They are always looking for evidence that we're in danger, and it's not hard to frickin' find, especially not right now in the world that we live in. So your anxiety is not a conscious choice. Nobody chooses to have anxiety. Okay, you have stimuli coming in. It tells your amygdala determines that it's dangerous. It sends a message through your vagus nerve to your nervous system that we have a problem here. Let's fire up this trauma response, whether it's fight, flight, freeze, or shut down, and any variation of that on the spectrum. Next thing you know, you are flooded with adrenaline and cortisol, and that experience we label anxiety. You did not choose that consciously at any part of the process. P.S. So many of us have anxiety because of responsibility that we took on when we were a child to take care of other people. So there are so many reasons we have anxiety. And so it's not about shaming it or getting frustrated with it. It's about honoring it. And then it's about noticing it when it's bubbling up and consciously choosing to work with it. You see, when you choose to gentle parent your anxiety, you're acknowledging it. Just that alone will diffuse the situation. Then you take it a step further and you say, I notice I'm feeling anxiety. What part of me is feeling that way? Is it my inner child? Is it my inner adolescent? Is it a protective part? And you get curious. Just extending the curiosity is going to calm it down. And then you're going to say, I understand. I get why you would feel scared right now. You validate with empathy. Okay, think about when you're parenting a child and they have a big feeling. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away. When you turn around and you get on a knee and you look your child in the eyes and you say, I see you. I understand you're upset. They most often, not always, because every kiddo is different. Every kiddo's brain is different. Every kiddo's nervous system is different. So this doesn't work every time, honey. I understand tantrums. I understand kiddos with big feelings and they have no way to express them. But when we look and acknowledge with curiosity and in a regulated nervous system, our kids' big feelings, they will start to calm down. When we ignore them or we escalate, because our, energy matches like energy. So when our kids get escalated, it's very easy to get sucked into that vortex and to also escalate. But when we can remain regulated in our nervous system and we can hold space for their big feelings, it is more likely that they will begin to calm down. You know what I'm saying? And so why wouldn't that be the same for the big feelings that are bubbling up inside of us? You give it some attention and it goes, okay, there's an adult here. There's somebody here to help me. Remember when I taught you about that CEO self, your higher self? That CEO self is going to need to reparent that part who's feeling the big feelings, that part that's having the big anxiety right now. Your adult self, your higher self, your CEO self needs to say, I see you, honey, and I understand why you feel that way. What is it that you need? How can I help you? And that part of you that feels anxious sometimes just needs to say out loud, I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling anxious. Sometimes she needs a hug. Sometimes she needs a nap or some rest, or to be told it's going to be okay, or to be told that her feelings are okay. All of that can slowly diffuse the situation. And what's so uncanny to me is that as mothers, we're all very interested in finding more effective ways to parent our kiddos, aren't we? We're very eager to learn about gentle parenting or conscious parenting, or what tools and tricks and techniques are going to help our kids regulate their nervous systems or feel loved. We're very concerned with that. We're very committed to learning about that and to taking action. But where is that same level of energy and focus on healing ourselves? Because when we learn to gentle parent our anxiety, it becomes a lot easier to gentle parent our kiddos and their big feelings. When we learn to regulate our nervous system, it becomes a lot easier to stay grounded in a dysregulated state. Now, is the goal to be perfectly grounded all the time? No, I already shared with you guys, I lose my shit once a day. And I have the best of freaking intentions. You guys know I'm the biohack queen. I meditate every day. I try to walk and close my stress cycle every day. I journal. I do the subconscious reprogramming. I do the therapeutic work. Like, I am always trying to do the work and I still get triggered. I still get dysregulated. But instead of pretending that's okay and going down a spiral, I notice that happened and I go back and repair, and I don't shame the living crap out of myself, because that only makes me more vulnerable to more triggers. And I try again and I keep trying, and I'll never stop trying. You know why? Because my kids are worth it, and I'm worth it too. And you are worth it too. So here's what I want your takeaway to be, mama. If you're feeling anxiety, it's okay. I know it might be uncomfortable. I'm not saying that we should just never do anything to help ourselves. I'm saying when we work towards compassion and acceptance, we no longer engage in this energetic war inside. And when we choose to acknowledge our anxiety, the part of us that is anxious, when we choose to show up and see it with empathy and care and compassion, and even have some respect for how hard it's had to work, it will begin to diffuse. Will it fully go away? I don't know. Probably not. There's more work to be done. There's deeper healing. There's more tools in the tool belt to utilize. But I want you to put this gentle parenting your anxiety in your tool belt that you are building by listening to this podcast. So, where can you begin to take one mini step toward gentle parenting your anxiety? Maybe it's just trying to allow this concept in. Maybe it's trying to give your anxious part a name, or just try to de-identify with that part. Like, you are not an anxious person. You just have a part that's feeling some anxiety. Do you see that there's a difference? If you think I'm an anxious person, then all of you feels that. It's like it's right here blocking your vision. It takes over. I'm anxious. But when you can say there's a part of me that's feeling anxiety, and it's this inner child that's sitting at my CEO table of life, there's distance between that part who's experiencing that in your reality. And that distance is where we have an opportunity to take a breath, to dismantle our old programming and our old patterns, to show kindness, to breathe again, and to take a different action that's more in alignment with our CEO self, because she is a grounded self, and she is always looking out for the best for herself and the children and the people around her. She doesn't need to shame any parts of her. She understands they are all integral to the who she is. She is more interested in integrating all of her parts versus shunning them out, because from that place, she can vibrate authentically. She can exist holistically. And that is really what this bigger journey is all about. It's helping you make peace with and integrate all of who you are. Because once we do that, I can't help but notice, but that's where we tap into our magic. It's often in our mess that we find that magic. It's often when the fireworks go off. Once we fully accept all of who we are, especially the most embarrassing parts. And that version of me that gets triggered and yells, that's one of my most shameful parts. I really, really get embarrassed about that, especially as a therapist. But you know what? I'm only human. I am doing my best, and I am working on it. And I hope that by sharing that truth, it gives you permission to share your truth and to not live in shame, and to start to work with that part and integrate that part. Because when I stopped wearing a mask, when I stopped pretending I was somebody I wasn't, boom, everything in my life leveled up massively. I left a corporate toxic career. I got into therapy and started healing my trauma. I went back to school to become a therapist. I launched a successful business that has grown and grown and grown for the past 8 years. I become a better wife, a better therapist, a better coach, a better mom, a better person. I've been able to access deeper parts of my wisdom, of my intuition, of my inner knowing. I've really started to strengthen my spiritual relationship as well. And I truly believe that anything is possible for me and the people I love. But it wasn't possible until I really faced the parts of me that I was most ashamed by and integrated them. So I am in the business to help women integrate fully, because what's possible on the other side, right? What's possible when we unperfect ourselves in our lives is pure magnificence, pure golden expression. And when I think about what we can do as women, as mothers collectively, when we are expressing from that place, holy shiitake mushrooms, I get goosebumps. Anything is possible. And we need our light in the world now more than ever. So take this gentle parenting your anxiety and put it in your tool belt, and then join us in the Mommy's Mental Health Matters Facebook group and talk about how you might use this, or where you're struggling, or what your reaction was to this episode, or what questions you might have. We are all there to support each other, and may this serve you now and in the future. I am sending you so much love, Mama. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week, and I will see you same time, same place next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Unperfected Pod. I hope this episode helped you feel a little less alone and a little more inspired to be you. If you like what we're doing here, I would so appreciate that you subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you do, share the episode on Instagram and tag me at BrookeJeanUnperfected to enter to win a 1-to-1 laser coaching session. Also, feel free to join me in my private Facebook community, Mommy's Mental Health Matters, where we continue the conversation. Thanks again for being here, and see you in next week's episode.